Georgia Kelly is the director of the Praxis Peace Institute in Sonoma, California. Georgia, welcome to EV World.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here. I understand it's pretty warm out there in Sonoma today.
It certainly is.
Well, look, this is going to be a little bit unusual interview for EV World viewers because typically we talk about electric cars and green transportation technologies, and we're going to talk about something different today. We're going to talk about the mechanics, if you will, of manufacturing, in particular the human side of it. As you're aware, I'm interested in the Mondragon experiment, I guess is the best way, one way to phrase it, although it's probably beyond that. But I'm really curious as to what that particular way of structuring a business has in terms of people's happiness, their productivity, the success of the business, that type of thing. And of course, you took a tour over to the Basque region of Spain here last September. And I wanted to follow up with you and talk to you a little bit about that and find out, for EV World readers' benefit as well as mine, what your take on it was. So first of all, maybe we can start by kind of explaining what the Praxis Peace Institute is.
Okay. Well, Praxis Peace Institute is a peace education nonprofit organization, and we've been in existence a little over 10 years. And our main focus was to find the reasons that we have such difficulty arriving at peace on our planet. So we're not a normal peace organization in that we're just, calling for peace and writing articles and doing that sort of thing. We're also leading inquiries into different facets of our life to figure out why we continue to repeat the same mistakes over and over again, century after century. And one of the focus areas that we've looked at in the last couple of years has been on economics, which has led us to the Mondragon cooperatives in Spain. Because first we look at what's wrong with the economic system that we live with, and then we were looking for models that could show us a different way to do it that would be peacemaking, ultimately. So this is a little bit about Praxis and also about why we have taken the focus to the economics of peace, which was the name of our last conference that we had in 2009.
Yeah, because it would seem to me that if people are gainfully employed and earning a livable wage, having most of those basic sort of Maslowian needs met, that that there's going to be less of a need for them to be out there, wanting to militate for violent solutions to their problems. I'm thinking specifically what's going on right now in the Middle East.
Well, there's no need for that in a situation like this. And I think that's one of the things their founders said, when there's a block to evolution, there is a need for revolution. And they have a model that really evolves with the times and with the needs of the people and the society they're in. You mentioned Mondragon being an experiment. I would no longer call it that because it's been going for 56, 7 years at this point.
Yeah. And
it began with one worker-owned business, and now it is 120 worker-owned businesses, from large to, I guess, medium. We might call medium here. But they're functioning very well, and they do earn a living wage, and they do have all the social safety net within their community covered. They have their own banks. So they've developed, I would say it's like a culture. They've developed a whole society within Spain and the Basque region.
Well, let's sort of back up for people so we can understand why is this thing obviously called the Mondragon, and just give us kind of a quick run up to how it formed and essentially what it does.
Okay. Well, the Mondragon cooperatives are a consortium, in fact, the world's largest consortium of worker-owned businesses. And they began in the 50s, and they were founded by a Catholic priest, Father Jose Maria Arizmendi Arrieta, who was sent to the region to be a pastor in the town of Mondragon. And he was highly schooled, very scholarly in philosophy and sociology, and really questioned why he was being sent to this impoverished region, and resisted at first and tried to be reassigned, and he did not prevail. and was ultimately sent to Mondragon. And while he was there, I guess early on, figured out that since the area was so impoverished, they needed to come up with some way of helping the people there. And he began working with a few parishioners and people he talked to in the local bar. And basically they formed study groups first. And the study groups were really learning about the economic situation there and what they could do to improve their lives. And they began with a small worker-owned business that this priest helped originate that made parts for a factory in Bilbao, Spain. Now today they make all the appliances that at one time they were just supplying parts for. They have a large company that makes washing machines and those kinds of things, appliances. So they have all kinds of businesses. They're manufacturing, but they're also, I mean, they make bicycles, they make appliances, they even make buses. So they have large businesses. They have their own university, and which has about 4,000 students, and they have the largest research and development center in all of Europe, with 13 different campuses, basically. So they have grown slowly over a 56-year period, but very steadily, and have evolved from a, as they say, their focus is on creating community and creating jobs. It's not on profit making. So profit making is a secondary motive because they have to stay in business, but it's never the reason for their being in business. So you find CEOs who make 6 times the lowest worker owner, not 400 times, like we see here. So there's so much equality within the system, and it's democratically run too.
Yeah, for some people when they hear about this, you know, I've posted things about it, and I get comments that come back and say, well, that smacks of communism, or worse, it smacks of socialism.
Well, I mean, in a way it is.
So is it really? I mean, how does this differ from an ESOP, you know, employee-owned, you know, stock program, for example, here in this country?
It's not a stock program, but it is employee-owned, and I would say it is similar to a socialist model in that sense. It's economic socialism, definitely.
Yeah.
Within, they don't use these words. They don't use the word capitalist or socialist. They just say this is worker owned. This is what we do.
Right.
They don't talk about ideologies like that. To them, this is a very practical way to live. There's no poverty within the system. If people are out of work, they find, and if there's downsizing in one company because they have a corporation for all of these 120 companies, they replace them in other businesses. So there's a real commitment to the people within the community that, of course, you don't have in a wild free market society.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so they have a very good social system and medical system, medical care and pensions. You know, they're basically set for life in this worker ownership.
Yeah. Now, if I remember correctly in reading about this, one of the things is that if you are a worker that's part of the cooperative there, you actually have to, if you will, buy your way into the job. In other words, you have to invest some money up front, although that money is available from the you know, the local employee-owned bank.
Right. Yes, you do.
So you have an automatic buy-in into this venture, and then when you leave the business, then you have to cash out. Is that correct?
You know, I don't know about leaving the business because it rarely happens, and
Okay.
that's a question that we can ask this year. It rarely happens that people leave the business, and what they invest. I mean, there's an upfront investment. If there's a job opening, then you can apply for it to become a worker owner, but you also have to invest in it. You don't just get the job and all the benefits, and the investment is 14,000 euros. And that can be paid over a 10-year period with a loan with 1% interest from the Caja Laboral, which is the Mondragon Bank.
Right. Okay.
So it's very affordable.
So is this, you know, you were there, you spent time. Do you have a sense that, you know, coming from, you're in California, you're not that far from the center of Silicon Valley, sort of the hothouse for entrepreneurism and you know, high stakes investment in businesses and things. Do you have a sense that this approach is would work here, or is it just simply too closely allied to the culture of the Basque people, as some critics have asserted?
Well, it does work here, and I will talk about that in a minute. But before I do that, I wanted to mention that there's tremendous innovation within the worker cooperatives there, and that's reflected by the fact that they have a university and the largest research and development center in all of Europe. They're very committed to creating new jobs, so that means new ideas, new products, new services, and they're always looking for the need in the community and in the society to fill that need. And they're always steps ahead of what is happening in the world as we know it. One of the things they said in both trips we took there in 2008 and 2010 was that 25% of the products that will be available 4 years from now don't exist yet and probably aren't even on the drawing board. So that's their commitment to innovation. They're very innovative, and they do have a center that helps inventors or people who have business ideas develop those ideas from the business plan through a prototype or a model. They take them all the way through. They invest in it if they believe in the idea. So there's tremendous support for innovators within the Mondragon system.